Hello everybody, welcome back to the Unite Mathcast, an insight into the objective and subjective mathematics of Pokemon Unite. Before we begin, this podcast is sponsored by UniteDB, the foremost authority on the mathematics and formulas hidden within Pokemon Unite, but more on them later. Today on the Mathcast, we have some guests. We're going to be starting with World Champion Lazadin.
I'm the #1 Regice hater.
Our pro Feppy.
Hi, I'm known as the int support.
And our content creator SmushyCows.
Hello. I'm known as Wholesome Mr. Mime Main or Mamoswine Main, and we like to have fun.
And of course, me, Math Geek. Hi. We at the Math Court believe that seeing the same image through different perspectives allows us to see a more complete picture of the truth, so I brought on 3 particularly interesting perspectives today to talk about Unite. Today's topic is the most recently released Mon, Mew. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Yo.
So, how about that Mew, huh?
Why?
Why?
What do you mean?
Every MOBA needs that one, incredibly gimmicky character that just does something so out of this world that kind of just breaks the main mechanics of the game. And I think Mew is that one for us.
I'd rather not eat 2,000 damage at level 4. That's not my favorite way of interacting with the game.
Mew is to attacker what Hoopa was to support. It is, game-definingly strong, in my opinion. The flexibility is unreal.
It's one of those so based on the whole mechanic of its move reset, it doesn't really have a set. That's something that's so interesting to me, is that every time you run Mew, it's always the same thing. So because it's so so strong, there's no build that's gonna be better or worse than the others. It's just take the ones you need right then. So it's always gonna be consistent.
You probably see a lot of, maybe. You have the capacity to see a lot of individual, play styles. The way that Muck defined, Dat Boy Muck, the way he defined Mystic Flame, Flame Charging on Mystical Fire, Delphox, I feel like maybe you have a Mew player who might get known for preference on Surf or something like that, or gravitating towards a more supporty play style, spamming the coaching or something like that. That the capacity for that exists, which is very unique because it enables, the same way Emblems coming out enabled a personalization of gameplay, right, to each Pokemon. Mew itself contains that within its kit too, which is very interesting.
Pretty unique, yeah.
The thing that I like about Mew the most is that you can kind of do a little bit of everything. It's really flexible in, the main problem with it right now is obviously that it's, the best at doing almost everything. But, when they eventually tune it to a point where it's the ultimate flexible Mon, then I actually think it's going to be really, really fun. And it's even really, really fun to play right now. Switching moves, in the middle of a fight, the whole, I can start off on Surf to peel for somebody, and then I can switch to Solar Beam to kill somebody that I just pushed away is, really fun, and I love that a lot.
I mean, it definitely promotes, a certain type of fun gameplay, right? Being able to say, well, I'm in the middle of a fight, and I can just plop whichever ability is going to be most useful to me right now. It just kind of feels like it has to be fun just by its own nature, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's also balancing between switching your moveset, right? Because every time you use the ability to switch moves, it also makes your Unite more accessible. So you balance that decision of how urgently do I need my Unite move versus, do I really want to switch this move out? I think once you've selected to switch moves, there's a 6-second window before you can reselect the same move, right? So you could theoretically be crippling yourself in that very short window if you don't get to select the move that you need to. It's a fun balancing game that really rewards players who have mastered their time management, I think. The skill cap on Mew is, the skill ceiling is very, very high, which is rewarding, It's a lot different from old Mr. Mime where it was Herder walks up towards the wall and hits confusion button and does 10 million damage. Right, it's so much more interactive that it's going to make for some very fun viewing as well, I think.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Unite move before. I think I kind of want to focus on that for a little bit because I think that Mew's, even setting aside the really interesting kit and the whole passive with swapping the moves around, just look at that unique Unite move. I hate it. I like the idea, but one thing that I just detest in general in MOBAs is just free stealth. Being able to like have one-sided information is incredibly strong, and in Pokemon Unite, it's kind of the same thing. Knowing who's in a bush is really nice information. Like, it's sometimes worthwhile for you to go push up into a bush that you can go blind just to know that there's nobody in there.
Especially in this game where we don't have something like the equivalent of warding. The way you
Yeah.
scout a bush, if you didn't have that vision, is you throw a move and you listen for the sound difference, right? Maybe this move makes a clank or something when it interacts with another Pokemon.
Yeah.
But with that free stealth, anyone who's played Greninja with the smoke screen knows how valuable having access to that free approach can be. How many times have someone lost a crucial Dreadnought to a Greninja that you had no idea was there? So undoubtedly, that vision is massive, especially when it's team wide.
Ridiculous.
It's sort of like the old
See-
Hoopa ult, dragging everyone, right? Like
Yeah,
that's what makes it so strong.
It's very like thematically similar to the Hoopa ult. Like Hoopa ult is essentially like a full heal for your team. Like, that's what you're using it for. You see, my entire team is going to get a full heal. Meanwhile, Mew, on the other hand, is my entire team gets a free engage. Like, I feel like it's just so.
When you say full heal, because Hoopa ult is not used for that at all.
Sorry. I'm thinking of the base portal. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not the ult. Sorry.
In some ways, that you could consider it a full heal if the team goes back and then immediately goes through portal. You have those, like, if they just died, they have iframes, but they do heal to full from backing and get pulled. The Hoopa Unite is even more broken because it enables mind games or the capacity to off position and score cap, right?
Yeah.
You score during Zapdos or something before. Nowadays, back capping is prioritized. The power, the weight of back capping is greater because there's no instant comeback mechanic on flip, right?
Yeah, not anymore.
So pros and cons to bringing the Hoopa still. It seems like with the map being so big, people have opted out, which makes Mew's ult even better because your team is more likely, at least those that are present, you have that safe approach, that safe escape, a safe skirmish, while someone is also backcapping, right? You have the capacity to have a safe initiation. And I always think that the team that initiates has the advantage for,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like that's the whole reason why Zapdos was quote unquote balanced, because if you were losing and the team that was behind, they were the one who was forced to go into Zap, and the other team gets to engage onto them for free, which is the huge advantage. Well, yes, they have. Yeah, that's like, at least in concept, that's why it's air quotes fair. But on the other hand, I think that also means that Mew, because Mew's only seen play on this map, right?
Yeah, Mew was never playable on remote.
Because I feel that Unite move will be ridiculously strong on remote, just because of Zapdos.
I feel like the Unite move is actually just not even best used for anything sneaky like that. I think it's best used to literally just kill someone at the start of a fight. Like,
I mean, it doesn't even have to be sneaky. The fact that it's sneaky is just an additional thing on top of it. It's irritating.
I mean, like, you can literally just press ult, walk on top of someone because there's nothing they can do because you are literally invincible, waiting for it to detonate, press surf, switch to surf, or press surf, dash backwards, hit them with an auto, and they're literally dead. There is nothing you can do about it.
You can't exactly run away from the ult. Like, the Unite move has such a huge radius, and it just walks up to you, and like, what are you gonna do? You just die.
The way I've described fights in the new Thea Sky Runes, it feels like there's a lot more of like what I describe as skirmishes rather than full force team fights. And I think that kind of coincides with a little ambush like that, like picking someone off right away at the start of the fight. I think that it's not as punishing though to have something like that happen unless other people get picked off as well, because the odds before, if you used a Unite move to pick someone off early, you may or may not be coerced into having to do Zapdos, depending on if you're behind or ahead, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But that pressure is not there anymore, right? So the window for respawning and re-participating in a fight is much more available to both teams, honestly. So, the most punishing thing I've felt when it at least comes down to the Rayquaza fight, the last 2 minutes,
Yep.
is I've been encountered by enemy teams in like halfway pushed up into our jungle. The positioning is so much more lenient right now than it used to be. And I'm not sure if it's that it's because of the bigger map or
The shape of it promotes that as well because of all the different bush areas. It's so much more like complicated that it definitely allows for trickier movement through.
very much so. And a side point as well is that this map rewards mobility so much that teams that comp for that get that positioning to take for weird picks. And when you get three on that engage, they can't stop a back cap and go to Rayquaza. And that has been where we've been getting punished, I've felt, is when they can force a 1-3-1 scenario. Because at the end of the day, you just want the cap. Rayquaza's not even the end all be all.
What about you, Feppy? What's your opinion on the Unite move? Do you think, like, at least professionally, do you think that that in higher end pro play, the Unite move will end up, being as strong as at least we're suggesting, or at least I'm suggesting?
I think the Unite move is completely broken. Like it struggles a bit more in pro play simply because like if you find the Mew, you can just one shot it because it's so squishy, right? So the Mew has to be in range to ult to save someone. But if you find the Mew, you can just delete it. But in general, like there's been so many times where like we've had like our Glaceon get dove, and the Glaceon just doesn't die because like it's passive procs, and then the Mew ults, and then it just gets to walk away for free, and you can't ever kill it. So I think the fact that it makes people invisible, like yeah, even though they're not invincible, like it basically makes them invincible, right? It's like pseudo invincibility for your entire team. Like the only way you're killing somebody inside of a Mew ult is if you manage to find a way to like block them out of it with Snorlax, or like kill them with Mime ult right now in the meta, and it's like it makes it very very difficult to actually do anything and like interact with the Mew ult at all. And then on top of that, that's only the invisibility part. Like as Ven was saying earlier, like it's insane damage. Like you can just straight up delete someone with Surf plus ult. You can delete squishies with it if you just time it correctly, and if you have your boosted auto too, like you just straight up one shot a squishy, which is completely hilarious.
Fun fact, Mew is the highest special attacker in the game between levels 7 and 14, which is most of the game. And like you said, the scaling on that special attack, 211% plus 550 flat is wild. For a utility ult,
Yeah, like the big thing when it comes to looking at special attack is evaluating as to how much of the ability is special damage, is special attack. And for Mew, the answer is a lot. Like Mystical Mirages is Unite move. At higher ish levels, like 11 plus, the special attack ratio is like 3/4 of its damage. Like it's actually insane. 2/3 to 3/4 of its damage, which means Mew actually benefits quite a bit from even stacking further special attack on top of it, because all of its ratios are actually kind of nuts. Like coaching is another 2/3.
This is one of the rare special attackers that you actually see people run Wise Glasses on too. There aren't very many that people run Wise Glasses on just because
it's usually not worth it.
That sort of levels of scaling, and like with the extra percent from Wise Glasses usually just isn't worth it. But Mew has the combination of high special attack and also high ratios that just makes it very, very, very good for Wise Glasses.
I actually appreciate that about Mew though, because for the longest time, all Pokemon would run Focus Band, right? Because you'd even see that on like a Pikachu, just because in the laning phase you could get, contesting early farm is so important. In the old map, it was how you snowball. It's still true to this day, but there's just more experience to go around. But anyways, the fact that the scaling is so great on Mew means you're seeing less Focus Band, so you're having more true to archetype Pokemon, right? In my opinion, at least.
That's so. I usually try telling people the way that I can estimate the amount of damage that Wise Glasses is giving you to give an idea. Let's just ignore the plus 39 for now and just look at the 7%. As a general rule for most mons, special attack takes up about half the amount of damage that your move is going to deal, roughly. So you got a big about at like mid to high levels, it's a little different. But like let's just say mid level, the base takes about half, and the special attack takes about half, which means increasing your special attack by 7% means you're increasing your damage by about half that amount, which is about 3.5%, which really isn't very much for a single item. But with Mew, that number instead of it being half is more like 3/4. So we're looking at like a 5 to 5.5% damage increase, which is suddenly now notable. That's almost double the amount of value you're getting out of Wise Glasses just by putting it onto Mew, which is actually kind of mental. Like when you look at all the other comparisons people are making, it's obviously not going to be as much extra damage as if you got like a fully stacked special attack, there's a special attack specs on Slowbro or something. But for a special attacker with really high special attack, there aren't a lot of options that give you much more damage. And for the first time, I think, since the game is released, I think that Wise Glasses is actually a correct choice to put as your primary damage item.
And if for everyone listening, if you really want to go crazy on Mewtwo, if you're building this full special attack, hyper carry attacker kind of a thing, Solar Beam is 3 ticks of 100% special attack scaling with plus 260 flat. 3 ticks, and at level 10, each enemy hit reduces the cooldown. So you can spam this, doing essentially 300% special attack on the highest special attack scaler is crazy. It's crazy.
If you full hit 3 people with Solar Beam, there is no cooldown.
They're gone, right? Yeah.
Yes. There's been some pretty interesting, because like the like sort of logical go-to for Solar Beam is Light Screen, right? Because not only is it like self-heal, which is really, really good, which I think it gets underutilized for that, by the way. Light Screen is so fucking stupid. But but it also has that amp damage on it. However, there has been a couple of Japanese players who have been started to play it with agility instead, like in late game fights, which allows them to reposition mid-beam and potentially get more CDR out of it.
Oh my, you can reposition mid-beam with agility?
Yeah, it works like Flash. Yep.
Oh my god.
I am a huge promoter of agility beam. I've been running it basically since I learned that interaction. I've been running it in like 90% of my late game fights. It's completely hilarious. Like,
wow,
the fact that you have flashable beams on, theoretically like a 2-second cooldown is just absolutely absurd.
I have a question then about that interaction. Does it drag the hitbox through the duration of the hitbox? So is it literally a whole line of damage you're dragging?
It drags the hitbox with you as you're dashing.
Wow, that's crazy. How do you not get free resets? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually true. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that agility does have a cooldown that's relevant. So, like, having a 7-second cooldown, it does hold 2 in reserve, which is nice, and it does have, like, a minimum 2-second in between, but, like, agility isn't, like, you can just spam it off cooldown. You can do that with Solar Beam, but agility definitely requires a little bit more, like, thoughtfulness, which means the combo isn't always 100% consistent.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
But also,
it doesn't expand.
No, the hitbox doesn't expand, it just moves. It shifts in a line, which essentially means that anybody who'd be hit by that will be hit by, like... Yeah. The hitbox doesn't grow, but if you take a small hitbox and then move it through space, it will end up, air quotes, being a larger hitbox, just over time.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is, like, with that specific interaction, you don't even have to, like, you don't have to agility every time. Like, just the threat of being able to agility is enough. Like, a lot of the times, like, I'll just beam and then just be like, oh, I'm going to hit 3 people. Why would I bother agility? And then I get to keep my cooldown, right? Because there's a lot of times where, like, I played the moveset against, like, really high elo players, and they'll just stop trying to dodge my beams because they're just like, oh, well, if I dodge the beam, he's just going to agility. So what's the point of dodging the beam? So I just hit free beams and I get to keep my cooldown, which is also really funny.
I feel like it's one of those like high end competitive things where it is correct for you to just tank it on the face, because to try to dodge it is always a futile endeavor. So you may as well not dodge it because it's gonna give you the same results, and but it also gives you better positioning because you don't have to like screw where you are standing right now in order to have a small chance of dodging it. It's just better to say, screw it, I'm just going to sit here and tank the Zapdos, or whatever, or Rayquaza, I guess, in this case. If Mew looks like they're about to pummel onto you, just take it. That's interesting. Are there any other interesting combinations that people have been looking into?
Well, the one that I've been experiment. A lot of people know about this one a lot more already, but just the coaching Electro Ball interactions specifically are really nice. It's easily Mew's like fastest objective rip because you can Electro Ball, coaching, boosted auto, Electro Ball, coaching, boosted auto, Electro Ball, and just like spam a ton of boosted autos and abilities all at the same time. And also increase your teammates' rip at the same time because you're also increasing their attack speed. So it's a combination that I've been using a lot when we just need to rip an objective really quickly, or even just in like team fights where I just need to like, or I'm just playing in the middle of my team so that I can ult them. I can just use coaching to just dodge abilities and stuff, and then use Electro Ball so that I can just stay mobile and I'm not like at risk of really dying because I just have a bazillion dashes.
There's also the weird thing about seeing if coaching somebody is actually worthwhile damage wise because of the whole attack speed weird buckets thing.
Oh, it's almost always a bucket unless it's a Blaze Kick Cinderace or something like that.
But yeah, the exception is like exactly Cinderace. But even one bucket on like reasonably low isn't that big of a deal. But guaranteeing that you get 1 or 2 buckets on a reasonably fast attacker is really nice. I feel like this is one of those things that like over the course of the next year, when people play more and more Mew, people will just become more familiar with what levels people get which buckets. So you can start saying, oh, well, I know that since it's level 8 right now, it's correct for me to coaching the Cinderace because it'll end up providing me more DPS than it. Like, it's just like a nice extra chunk of depth that you don't usually get on a lot of these mons, on top of all the other depth that Mew has. Like, the fact that you can go so deep and invest so much time and effort into thinking about just how to correctly use one ability with a bunch of research, and that still leaves 5 others for you to have to consider.
That goes back to the skill cap. That's part of what makes Mew so exciting, is that it rewards that extra effort, that extra knowledge basis.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you're ever curious about attack speed, I did actually, before the podcast today, update the calculator that's in resources with Mew. It's also pinned on my Twitter account. It has everything like now properly put up. Coaching is slightly more than like helping hand as far as attack speed boosts go.
Only it's that much? Holy! I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, it is the highest attack boosting steroid in the game, I believe. Yeah.
Other
the
than
previous one we had,
that's really big then.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Blaze Kick Plus is the exception.
Well, in Dragon Dance.
Well, but Dragon Dance isn't like a singular. But again, those are both like self buffs. So.
Yeah.
So what's stopping a team from running the Blissey with Helping Hand then? And you just have such a cracked attacker on your Cinderace then, you know? Like, that's something to contend with, a double steroided Cinder.
I just realized we're gonna have to check more buckets, aren't we? Because that coaching exists, now we need to go check even more possible buckets to see if we can get Cinderace down to 8-frame attacks. Because right now,
God, no! Please not Cinder with 8-frame attacks.
Because right now, it is possible to get Cinder down to 12-frame attacks, which, by the way, is
get him to 8.
That's 5 attacks per second, by the way. Yeah, and the next stage beyond that would be essentially doing 7.5 attacks a second. But it's a really hard bucket to find because when you pile every single buff on top of it all at the exact same time, you might get a couple attacks to just check the value for. It's one of those that's like, it's theoretically reachable, but it's not really practical within a game. You need like exactly a certain team, and it would only be active for a couple seconds. But I feel like if you can do like 7.5 attacks a second, you're just gonna be able to like laugh and spit on the enemy team, and they just all die. Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, if anyone's gonna figure that out, though, it's gonna be the pro players. We'll figure that out.
Well, no, that'll be us. We're going to be the ones who figure it out. We're going
Well,
to be the
you'll
ones
figure
sitting
out the
by
math. We'll figure out if it's possible to actually do in game, right?
or
In any given
viable. Yeah.
moment, you know, like, yeah,
I mean, it can be possible
It's
to do in
not.
game while also not viable.
yeah. Well, I mean, the
You-
problem is,
I
right, is
can-
like,
I can spoil
Okay.
it for you. It's not.
you say it's not. You say it's not viable, but if in theory, if we're reaching a situation where, like theoretically, Cinderace at level 15 gets both helping handed and coached right after they use Blaze Kick, that's something like that is something that could very reasonably happen with a game. Like it's not a far cry to say that
helping
couldn't
hand
happen.
Blissey and your team fight sucks.
Well,
Yeah.
sure, but you get the idea. If suddenly helping hand becomes like decent. Okay, let me quickly explain this because people were asking about what a bucket is. Attack speed is horrifying in this game. Basically, this game operates on 15 hertz servers, which means the game state is roughly updated every 15 seconds. Every 15th of a second, rather. Sorry. Every 15th of a second. So yeah, every 4 frames. Basically, yeah, because the game can run up to 60 frames per second, so we say every 4 frames. But the game, if you put it at like the lowest possible quality, it runs at 15 frames per second, which is, the exact speed of the game. But basically what it seems like is when you increase the attack speed of a mon, it doesn't actually increase the amount that it attacks in terms of speed. Not by that same amount. If you increase attack speed by 1%, it doesn't increase your attack speed by 1%. What it does is it says there are certain thresholds that if you pass those certain thresholds, then it says, okay, we're now going to take your attack and we're going to reduce 4 frames off the amount of time it takes to attack. So the default most people have is either 60 or 56 or 52 frames that they start off with. But then as you progress through the game, it's 4 less, 4 less, 4 less, 4 less. And when you stack things like muscle band, or if you stack things that increase your attack speed, like attack speed steroids, like coaching, it might cause you to bump into one more 4-frame tier essentially. And we call each of those 4-frame like a little, we call them buckets, because it is a bucket that you can fall into between this amount and this amount, and that will be that'll be the amount of frames you get per attack. Somebody who has like, what's the attack value? It's like 22.4 or something, is the amount where you get like the 56 bucket. So between that and like 41 or something, anybody who has any of those values in between will all have the exact same attack speed, no matter what. It'll just be 56 frames. We actually have a document in the publishing channel up at the top that called the attack speed problem that goes up to the exact specific the exact specific thresholds for each attack speed chunk. Okay, so here it is. 60 frames is if you have everybody gets at least 60 frames per attack. That's just the default. It is 0 attack speed, gives you 60 frames. But then every couple percent above that goes 8.1% is 56 frames. 16.42% is 52 frames. 26.11 is 48. And then it keeps kind of going up. What I find really interesting is that the amount of, like, the size of the buckets increases as you get to higher levels as well, until eventually 16 frames is like, you stack everything you possibly can onto a single mon, and you get like 16 frames per attack, or 12 frames, I think, for Cinderace was possible. It's ridiculous. The way that this game works is dumb.
Yes, very very much so.
I have at least in terms of attacks, it's somewhat related. So Muse boosted a question. Muse boosted
Yes.
auto. So the further the empowered auto travels, the more damage it deals, and the website UniteDB claims 9% more damage per threshold, stacking additively. However, there's no real visual indicator for what those thresholds are.
Nope.
I would love to have provided one. I would love to have done so. The problem is not only is it impossible flat out to quantify distance in this game, like it is just not possible. It is also, the thresholds aren't consistent. The first couple of thresholds are extremely small. Like if you simply agility backwards outside of Muse max auto range, you get about 3, I believe. But then the fourth one, you have to walk backwards a little bit. The fifth one, you probably need to cast second agility. And when you get around to like the 7th one, I only got by turning cooldowns off and pressing flash like 6 times during my animation or something like that. I have never been able to get the 8th.
So a reasonable expectation for someone who's intentionally trying to beef their damage up with this mechanic is probably within 2 to 4.
Yeah, probably within 2 to 4. Yep.
I know that in my mind at least, I always compared that mechanic to something like the old crit Delphox passive, but it's without, it takes less of build specificity, right? You don't need 1 or 2 items dedicated to crit, but you compensate for that by taking this extra initiative mid-fight to get that distance in, right? And some people have said that it's capable of doing like big damage, so that's why I was interested.
Yes. It can, reasonably speaking, at a high level, do easily 3,000 damage.
3K.
Yep. It is very funny.
Yeah, I think the highest I've ever seen it do is I think 3.1k.
And thank God they disabled crits on it. Wouldn't that have been funny?
Oh
they
god,
disabled-
we could have
okay.
had Delphox again. Oh,
Holy
god.
crap. Could you imagine if it was like air quotes optimal to run crit runes on Mew just so you could crit the boosted attack every once in a while and literally just one-shot gimp people?
Yeah, everyone would just play coaching Solar Beam and just spam autos.
That would be hilarious. Like, let's be honest, that's just hysterical.
That would be so funny. It would be terrorizing the entire ladder, but it'd be funny.
I hate it.
It would be so toxic. That'd be one of those things they'd have to hotfix in 2 days.
I mean, didn't they already hotfix Mike?
Yes, by reducing his healing by 35, it's still broken.
Yeah, that was not the issue.
Yeah, you know what all those videos are saying? Man, Mr. Mime's healing is so big. That's definitely what they've all been saying. Look at the insane healing on this build.
Yeah, not oops, why have I been one shot in a 1v3?
Oh hey, my duelist character, Garchomp, literally loses the 1v1 on even level. Strange.
Weird. And
Yeah.
also loses 2 levels behind.
Weird.
My duelist character loses to a support character when 2 levels ahead. Question marks?
Yeah. I don't know.
And honestly, I feel like with Confusion being bugged, you're seeing a lot of Mr. Mimes running the Psychic, right? And that synergizes so well with Mew right now, with so many special attackers that are relevant, that they only feed each other's oppressiveness even more.
Yeah.
So, what other moves have we not really talked much about? We haven't talked very much about Electro Ball. Opinions? Just, do you think that, like, what I've seen so far, most people play Mew, is they'll toggle between Surf and Solar Beam, and don't really ever take Electro Ball. Do you think that's, like, the right choice?
That's troll. Electro Ball's so good.
Hmm.
People literally play Electro Ball Pika because of Electro Ball's like damage output and execute. And Mew's Electro Ball, the only thing that it does worse is it has less AoE. And other than that, it does everything better. It does more damage and it has like double the execute. Like
Yes.
it's completely absurd. Like how do you not pick that move? Is I guess because like Solar Beam is just so insane at like poking, but I think a lot of people just forget about Electro Ball.
I mean, E-Ball is still a sure hit move, right? And it's only on a 5-second cooldown, so it's not even like I mean, you even said its shred potential on objectives when comboed with coaching, right? Is massive.
Silly.
I
Well,
mean,
and
there's
like one of the
teams that
best
will,
ways you can secure with Mew is like use Solar Beam to set up your boosted auto, and then you boosted auto Electro Ball, and just it's really really hard to out secure that. Like,
yeah. And there's teams that will just run Electro Ball Mew in lane. Like they'll just like put on
I
a
mean,
muscle
yeah,
band,
but that's a little troll.
hold A on you. Well, no, I don't think it is at all. Like I think it's a very it's a
it can
real
work in certain
strategy,
lanes.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's a very real thing to just put on a muscle band, hold A, and like spam your Electro Ball button. All of a sudden, like you're just dead.
So
I think
do
it's so
it's
hard to pass up on
always?
Solar Beam in early lane though. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
So does Mew kind of have the air quotes issue of like, oh man, this move is like one of the best moves in the game, but actually, yeah, it has the Snorlax problem, which is holy crap, Yawn is one of the best CC moves in the game, but nobody's ever going to use it because you have Block, which is just even better. Do you think that's the same kind of idea with Mew and Electro Ball, where Electro Ball is insane, what a great move, but you have Solar Beam, so why bother?
I don't think so. I think
For lane, for
I think too
lanes.
many.
For lane.
Yeah, For lane, no, I still don't think so. Like, uh, the second that you're not laning with somebody that has a secure, like obviously, like most Mews are laning with Mimes or Snorlaxes right now, right? So they don't need secure. They just need to rip the farm so that their other teammate can secure. But the second that they need to actually like have to secure a farm, like they're just gonna start playing Electro Ball, right?
That's fair.
Yeah, the context really does matter. And I don't know how meaningful that execute becomes on a, so I saw it was a meme at the time. It was before the map had even been released, I think, where someone had a Wigglytuff that was level 15 with Buddy Barrier, like Score Shield, ulted, and had Rayquaza Shield, and their health pool was sitting at an astonishing 22,000, right? So I think that, and I don't know for sure if what the threshold is where that 10% starts to be more meaningful or something.
I mean, it's definitely meaningful for the last 10% of their HP.
Yeah, well,
True.
Well, what makes it so strong too is that you're not. It's not like you're playing Pikachu, right? And so I'm just going back to Pikachu because Pikachu also has the move. Like, it's not like you're playing Pikachu where you're forced to have Electro Ball the entire game if you pick it. Like Mew doesn't have to. Mew never starts on. You don't start on Electro Ball because it has the execute. You start on Solar Beam. You chunk somebody for 50% of their HP. You boost it out of them, chunk them for another 20%, and then you Electro Ball them. Like, yeah, like you're not picking Electro Ball when you don't have the opportunity to execute somebody. You pick it when you know you're going to be able to execute somebody, and then it's like stupidly strong. It's not. Imagine if you were playing Pikachu and you just got to have Thunder, when you weren't having to execute somebody, and the second you needed to finish somebody off, you could switch to Electro Ball. Like, it's just hilarious.
Also applies Paralyze too. It 40% slow, which
yeah, as if it needed to.
Right, I know. It's the definition of power creep in some ways because this kit is so loaded with tools.
It's just not needed. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, speaking of power creep, why did they give this character 3 damage moves from other characters in the game, and then also just make them infinitely better in like every way? Like,
yeah, so I don't entirely agree. I'm going to disagree on one major thing. I don't think Solar Beam is necessarily better than Venusaur's.
I disagree.
Venusaur's having max HP ticks, and it does more ticks per hit. So I do actually think that Solar Beam on Venusaur tends to do more damage if you hit it.
Nope.
No?
Okay.
Nope.
It doesn't matter if it does more damage or not. Even if it does more damage, it doesn't get cooldown reduction, so who cares?
Oh, well, yeah, that's
like,
true, but
like it just doesn't matter. Like, you get to spam more Solar Beams once you hit level 10 on Mew. And in order to get that for Venusaur, you have to hit 13. Like, you could just get level 10 on Mew and be done.
That's actually crazy. You're right. Think about how big level 13 Venusaur is. Every team would prioritize that.
Yeah, you get that at level 10.
Level 10 is so achievable every single game.
Like, I just pulled up the values here just to get an idea. If you hit every single tick of both Solar Beams, of both Venusaur's and Mew Solar Beam, Venusaur's flat damage of the Solar Beam is about the same amount of damage as the full damage of Mew Solar Beam. Because it has additional ticks on top of it that also deal 1.5% of enemy max HP, Venusaur Solar Beam does do more damage if you hit the whole thing, which, isn't a guarantee by any means. I think that Muse is easier to hit a couple hits of, but if you hit the whole thing, Muse is not kept on Wild Mons. Oh, yeah, well, yes. If you're using it for secure, you're right. If you're using it for secure, then yes, Solar Beam is way better.
That's also at base stats, right? Because with Mew being how Mew is, it might be more inclined for people to double or triple stack special attack items on Mew, while I think a lot of Venusaurs would run that focus band, right?
That's true.
And maybe Energy Amp, which Mew is sort of incentivized to not run Energy Amp because there's built into his kit, of course, overloaded character kit. But yeah, whenever he uses that move reset, you get that ult back faster too. So there's no real need for the amp.
So then what do we think about Surf?
Oh, Surf is
it's also broken.
Yeah,
yeah.
So is there any capacity of Mew, anything in the slightest that isn't broken? Is everything about Mew broken? Light Screen. How's Light Screen?
Seems balanced. Light Screen's extremely broken.
Light screen's really broken. I think agility is actually like fairly balanced. Like agility's fine.
It's also the only non-damaging move in its kit. Like light screen is functionally a damaging move by virtue of it boosting all the damage of every other move.
Well, and I also think that coaching, oddly enough, I think coaching is like, I think the buff is insane, but I actually think the move is like is actually a bit undertuned overall, because like it not undertuned as in like the move is bad. What I mean is like Mew is really, really, really squishy. And if you're going to coach to somebody, when you're coaching to somebody, a lot of the times they're gonna get attacked and somebody's gonna start hitting them, and then you're just gonna also die with them because you're stacking on top of them, which is like a giant no-no in competitive play. You're not allowed to stack on top of other people in competitive play because you get AoE'd and you die. And coaching like forces you to do that. So I'd like to see coaching like maybe like get the buff nerfed a little bit, so it's like not as strong at buffing. Maybe give like a bigger shield and like do something else. Like it'd be a bit troll to like give it an unstoppable, obviously, but like something to make it more like supporty in nature and like actually not feel like you're just using it to like give an attack speed buff and reduce your other moves cooldown.
So can I just get something straight for a second? I just want to double check that in the same breath you both said coaching is quite undertuned and also that coaching needs to be nerfed.
Yes. You can't fix the problem with coaching, which is you can't jump to somebody to like really like help them and keep them alive, which is like obviously what coaching is like really intended to be, right? It's meant to be like a jump to somebody, give them a shield move speed, help them stay alive, give them a little bit of attack speed so they can assist in their trade, right? And that's obviously what the move is intended to do, but it can't do that because if you jump to a target, you just both get AoE'd and you instantly die. So like, even though the ability is theoretically strong, it's not doing what is intended for it to be doing as a move. That's why I say it's like simultaneously like really, really good buff, but nobody really uses the move because why would you use the move? Because you're just going to die. So it's like the move just doesn't make much sense to me overall.
I was about to say you could do some setup and like coaching to a teammate right when they go to initiate, so they open with that shield because the shield lasts for 3 seconds while the attack speed steroid lasts for 2, right? So at least the shield makes an open safer to do. And I was even going to say you coach to a teammate and alt for an engage, but it's stealth, so they're not going to, respond necessarily with an attack that you can then optimize the shield with. So
Someone did bring up a good point though. Mew's normal auto attack is in fact balanced. I would actually call it dog shit. It is like the literal like pressing A on this Pokemon feels so bad if you don't have a boosted auto.
Oh yeah.
Which is also really funny because it's
terrible.
it's also one of the few mons in the game that doesn't need to basic attack in order to be able to get its boosted. So
right.
Yeah, like nobody cares that Gardevoir's normal attacks are garbage. Like the only time you ever use them is when you're clearing creeps. Like who the hell cares?
or when you're trying to get a boosted attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Mew doesn't have to even use it. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
Is there any other topics that you guys would like to cover? Anything else that comes to mind?
I have one question, I guess, too.
Mhm.
So I was thinking about other pairings with Mew that would make it really strong, and I know that due to the range of Solar Beam, that's half of what makes it really good, right? So if you were to bring that with a Venusaur of your own, and I'm not sure what, I've been a little bit less engaged with the competitive meta in the last couple weeks. How frequently do you see a Mew with a Venusaur, and how utilized is that combo for poking out when it comes to big area secure, right? Zoning.
There's a lot of bushes on the map. It is funny, but then someone picks Charizard and your team gets wiped.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty
the
funny.
biggest thing that I usually see is like one of the main engages is like Mime ult with Psychic plus Mew Solar Beam, and you just one shot somebody. And one of the other things I see is like, Snorlax Heavy Slam plus like Glaceon Icy Wind Auto into like Mew Beam, and like those targets like always die if that happens. Or in like a really, really heavy one shot team fight sort of situation right now. Like pretty much everybody except for like the tankiest of tanks gets immediately one shot.
Yeah.
I find it very funny that they increased the ratio on Icy Wind from 19 to 23%, and the move shot up 7% win rate. That is extremely funny to me.
Well, I mean, that's not just because of the buff though. That's also because of the
It's
map.
obviously
Like,
Thea Sky Runes is infinitely better. Like, it is infinitely better for Icy Wind.
I almost feel like they missed the interaction. Like, I feel like they missed the interaction with the blue buff in Icy Wind. Like, you could just straight up keep Icy Wind stacks up forever. You don't, as long as you dash every, like, what, 3 seconds or something like that, you just keep it up. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
And you just, like, it enables some very, very degenerate stuff. Like, I'm playing Snorlax a lot recently. I walk up to a Glaceon, it boosted autos me with Icy Wind. It dashes and it boosted autos me again, and I die from full HP, and I'm only 1 level behind it. It's like, what the huh? Like, why is that a thing?
So I think that's a good place to end the episode today. Thank you everybody for joining us on the podcast today. I appreciate having all of you guys on, and thank you all the viewers for coming in and watching. Once again, thank you to our panelists. Please feel free to plug yourself or whatever else you're doing in your life today. We have our world champion Lazadin.
Hello. I am on Twitter, Lazadin1. I tweeted out that I tweet every week before the Mathcast starts. I will also, this is my announcement I teased, we'll be starting streaming next week, like more consistently. I'll be doing anything from discussions to coaching streams if I have any volunteers. But yeah, check that out, twitch.tv/Lazadin11, I believe.
Awesome. We have our pro Feppy. Please feel free to plug yourself.
Yeah, so if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts about Mew and just the meta in general, you can check me out at twitch.tv/FeppyTTV. You can also find me on Twitter at FeppyTTV, and you can find me on YouTube now at FeppyTTV, where I just post some of my stream highlights. If anybody misses the streams, you can catch up there.
And lastly, our content creator SmushyCows.
Thank you. I am known for I play competitive as well on stream at Twitch TV SmushyCows. You can follow me on Twitter. It's just at SmushyCows. And I guess I'm known for my shot calling. We like to have a lot of fun. I'm always laughing on stream with my friends, and we're friends with most of the pro scene. So we have a really good time. I hope to see some of you guys there.
And thank you, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This episode was brought to you in part by UniteDB, the foremost authority on the mathematics and formulas hidden within Pokemon Unite. The Math Cord works hand in hand with them to ensure the most up-to-date information is available to you all, and we hope that you appreciate this resource. Check them out at unite-db.com. That's unite-db.com for formulas, patch notes, tier lists, and a comprehensive mechanics FAQ. This episode was also brought to you in part by the Math Cord Patreon. Specifically, I'd like to give a shout-out to Heron Turpy, Circa, and Jake Sprague, who support us at the Funder tier, as well as all other patrons at our $5 and $15 tiers, who help make this podcast a reality. If you'd like to support us or have your name read out at the end of each Mathcast episode, feel free to support us at patreon.com/mathcord. Once again, thank you all for watching, and have a great one.